Hello and welcome on to my channel. It's your boy Hermit J, and today I want to rank the top 5 free dating sites of 2021. Now before I get into it, I just want to say off the top, I am a black male in USA, and it's my understanding that women tend to have dramatically different experiences with dating sites. I'll do the best that I can to try to keep this general and as objective as possible, but some of this might not apply to all of y'all. I also need to mention that I want to have these use sites that are as accessible as possible. I'm not going to be including niche stuff like JDate. I'm not Jewish, or Black BLK, which is just as good as Tinder for all intended purpose. But again, that doesn't apply to everyone. So I'm trying to be fair here and just include things that pretty much anybody can access. All right.
You've made your point, Sean. You're a good friend.
Yes, you're very close. So close, I wonder if he wouldn't be married by now if he wasn't spending so much time with you.
Trust me, I get mine. I mean, I'm just waiting for Mrs. Right.
We at least thought you'd have a house by now.
All right, so with that out of the way, let's jump right into it with our number 5, Tinder. Okay, so let's look at the pros first. It's very simple and easy to use. Not too many buttons or clutter. It's clean and accessible. I think most people should be able to figure it out with all of the total functionality within the first few minutes of experimenting. Right swipe for yes, left swipe for no, and if you aren't a fan of the swipe system, or if you're using a computer, you can instead hit the X or the heart respectively. You can also do an upward swipe or hit the star to identify a super like. Since you only get one super like per either 12 hours or 24 hours, it used to be 12 hours, I think it might be 24 now, I'm not certain. Anyway, it lets the person know that you're particularly interested in them, more so than just a regular right swipe. So use those sparingly. You have unlimited swipes. I used to be one of those guys that would just mindlessly swipe right on everyone, and then I'll weed out whom I'm not attracted to or interested in a later date when the matches come back to me. I read somewhere that this is a bad idea because apparently Tinder punishes you behind the scenes when you do this by making your profile less likely to come up in people's feed. So guys, try to keep your right swipes measured. I'd say at least 15 or less per 24 hours. Another pro is that Tinder has been out for a while, so it's found ways to implement upgrade features. I think honestly it's paved the way for a lot of how dating apps monetize these days with token systems and plus memberships, and these features include revealing who swiped right on you or that you haven't seen yet, or you can add more super likes, as I said before, as well as send messages before matching. You can also make your profile appear more readily in other people's feeds. And yes, all this sounds nice, but for guys, I don't recommend doing any of this except maybe getting more super likes sometimes, and I'll explain why that is later. And then lastly, I'll say that Tinder is a household name. Who hasn't heard of Tinder? It's a very popular, and I'd wager most people that have bothered with dating apps have probably given Tinder a shot at least once. It has inspired and influenced many other popular dating sites and made swiping mainstream. Alright, so let's talk about the cons. First off, it's a challenge of attrition, based especially for men. Getting a mutual match can take several days and a lot of swipes. There was a study once done I saw a couple years ago where they made 2 accounts of a man and a woman of relative equal attractiveness. Both were made to swipe 1,000 times. By the end of it, the female account got 30% more matches than the male. So take with that what you will. A big negative for Tinder is the stigmas that come with it. Very early on, it was popularly deemed a hookup site. In my experience, people looking for that are pretty few and far between on here. I noticed that a vast majority of people on Tinder are looking to either kill time, they're looking for social media followers, platonic friends. Some are genuinely interested in dating, and a few just are looking for a hookup. Again, this could be very different from a female perspective, but I wouldn't know. Either way, if you ask your average person, they'll probably echo that it's a hookup site, which makes it a bit tough to find love here. The bio and search criteria is pretty weak on this site. I'm gonna say bio a lot today, so let me clarify. It's the section that usually comes before the About Me section that you type. Usually it has basic data, height, location, sex, etc. And on the one on Tinder is passable, but on the weak side. Lately, everyone has been writing in their height in the About Me section just because it's not included in the bio for whatever reason. Lastly, let's talk about spam accounts. I'm pretty sure all dating sites have fake accounts. Usually it's either to puff up the member number so that the site seems more popular than it is, or sometimes they have bots that create fake accounts so that they can send people to scam sites or porn sites or whatever else. To counter this, Tinder does have a way that users can get verified, sort of like Twitter. You'll see a verified member with the inclusion of a blue check mark next to their name. There's no way to be certain how oversaturated with spam accounts Tinder is, but chances are if they have nothing in their bio, there's nothing written in there about me, and they're not verified, it's fair to assume that it might be a spam account. And usually these people are exceedingly attractive, so look out for that too. Next up, number 4, we're looking at POF, or Plenty of Fish. We're going to start with the pros, of course, get right into it. It's old. It's been around since at least 2008. Don't ask me how I know, but since it's been around so long, it probably won't collapse or shut down, even though it doesn't look great these days, but it's still popular. It's just as popular as ever been, so I don't think it's going anywhere. POF is one of the few dating sites that still has a search feature, which I appreciate. Like I said, Tinder has paved the way and made swiping the new norm, so people don't search. You don't put in your criteria, what you're looking for, what age group, your location, all that stuff, and just find different accounts and kind of pick by hand what person you would like to communicate with. POF still has a search feature, so that's a pretty big plus going for it, because I think it's the only site I'm going to talk about today that does. Tinder also has a lot of room in the About Me section, so you can really go off. I think Tinder has it has enough space, but it's pretty finite by comparison. When you look at POF, you can type paragraphs if you want. That probably won't suit you. People don't want to read all that, but you can if you want to do that. You also have access to a full bio, which is, again, a lot better than Tinder in this regard. You have access to all the basic information you're looking for: your height, the person's body type, their sex, their race, all that good stuff right there at the top. You can see it right under their pictures, so you don't even have to type much into that About Me section if you fill out the bio properly. All the information people really need is kind of right there, and then you can get the more information by just communicating, talking to them, just asking questions. But I think you'll get the gist of what type of person you're dealing with just based off of the bio alone, which is very good for these sites. Next, we're going to look at the 25 message limit. I know a lot of these dating sites, they have a cap on it. You can only talk to, you can only swipe 12 people per day, 10 people per day, stuff like that. POF, 25. You really ought to put the thing down after 25 anyway. You shouldn't be going that high, but if you're really on a roll, you're really on fire, you're just kind of messaging up a lot of people, you can go up to 25 every day, and that's a pretty solid limit. So if you want to do more than that, obviously you're gonna have to do the plus membership or that sort of thing, or I think they have a token system as well. But yeah, 25 is more than enough to be contacting per day. Next pro, we're gonna look at the Chat Now feature. This is one of the quality of life features that they have. Like I said, POF has been around for at least a decade, and they have lots of quality of life improvements, lots of you can read reveal, you can see who read your messages, you got your token system, you got your plus membership. They even have a swiping system, which I don't think is all that effective. I don't think people really use it that much, but it's there, so you can swipe if you want. So all that's pretty good. And the Chat Now feature that I was talking about is when you've been communicating with somebody in your messages, in your inbox, you can start to just have a chat with them. This will create a chat box so that you can have a back and forth conversation without it being email-y type slow. It'll be more of instant messaging. So, that's a great way to keep a conversation going without exchanging phone numbers if you're not ready to do that. You also have the live system. Now, I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't see the appeal, but this is coming from Herman J. Obviously I wouldn't see the appeal of live video chatting with anybody, especially strangers like this. But some people love it, and it's keeping the site healthy and alive. So I guess more power to them, as long as they keep it from getting too sexy. I've seen it implemented in other sites. I don't know if you've heard of Tagged, but it's kind of like POF, but it's just that's a hookup site. So it's very much, they do a lot of live there, and I can see that this is kind of going that way, but you know, people are having fun with it, so I don't get it. I don't see the appeal. Every time I look at somebody's live, they're not doing anything. They're just staring at the camera, probably smoking or lip syncing a song in the background. And I mean, I don't know. It's just not for me, but people love it. So if that's your thing, it's here. So now let's get into the cons. For me, a con would be live. I think it's messy. It's oversaturated. It's just when you open the site, it's hard for me to explain. But if you have the app of POF and you open it up, it just looks so cluttered and busy. And I think the live thing just kind of adds to that to make it look so. It's just unprofessional, you know. And I think that brings down the site as a whole to make it look less clean, less efficient, less productive. And it's an eyesore. So I don't really like the live thing for that reason. I think it just brings down the image of the site to be kind of trashed here, which is why I had a hard time placing this ranking, honestly. Tinder and POF, I could interchange between 5 and 4. They're both not so good. I'd probably say I'd sooner use Tinder than I would POF. Second con is spam accounts. Surprise, surprise. They're, like I said, they're on every dating site, and they're in wide number here, so you'll see them a lot. There are lots of people routing you to different porn or WhatsApp and stuff like that. So again, it's hard to counter it, but it's kind of a problem here. They used to have a lot more. I know a couple years ago it was like if you use the search feature, most of what you saw was a lot of spam accounts. But they've reduced the number somehow, but it's still a problem. The next con we're going to look at is the caliber of people on this site. Now, again, this is kind of a subjective opinion, so take with this what you will, but I just think that a lot of the people that I've seen on this site are very not, well, if you look at, like I said, the bio and the About Me section, people have really phoned it in. I mean, they'll the bare minimum, if that. And you just look at these sites, you look at the pictures, you look at these profiles, these accounts. It's very half-assed done. You know, I don't see a lot of really serious people taking this site seriously. So yeah, my final con would be it's too messy. It's too messy, it's too busy, it's too much going on, it's an eyesore. Every time I come to this app, it's just, I'm over it immediately. I just log right back off.
I'm so full, I'm gonna yap.
Let's not start tugging each other's non-existent dicks quite yet. We don't know if it works.
Oh, I have a feeling I'm completely fulfilled. I didn't give a woman 6.5 orgasms for nothing. Aisha, pull up our fulfillment meters and prepare to be impressed.
Bumble, we're going to start with the pros for that. A lot of it's going to be the same as Tinder because it's a pretty identical site. They copied a lot of their homework, so we're going to start with the first pro, which is simple and easy to use. Same thing, good clean UI, very easy to understand, quick to the swipe left, swipe right, same mechanics and all that. You also have unlimited swipes, the same as Tinder. Well, though with this one, it doesn't seem like it ends. You know, with Tinder you can eventually run out of matches. With Bumble, they just go on forever, which leads me to believe that they have more spam accounts, but it's hard to prove again. But like I said, with the same thing as like Tinder, the spam accounts can be rooted out by just basically evaluating on if they have a check mark or not, and if there is anything on their profile. Now, one of the biggest pros for Bumble, particularly for women, is that women message first. That's the whole gimmick with this site, which makes it, I think, remarkably different from Tinder. Is probably what they advertise themselves as. It happens is that if you swipe right on, as a man, if you swipe right on a woman, you kind of have to wait till she swipes right on you, and then can't say anything until she says something first. So you just kind of wait until the woman responds first, which is great for women because I hear that they have issues with men, you know, swamping their inboxes and they're getting too many matches and too many pictures and all that stuff. So the autonomy is totally on the women here, and they really have the opportunity to talk to who they want to talk to at their own discretion. So I'd say that for women, this is probably the best site for you to, if you're one of those women who go to dating sites and you get overwhelmed, this one is for you. Another pro is that Bumble has a platonic mode. You can switch off and on the platonic mode, which is if you're just looking for friends. A lot of people go to these dating sites, I've noticed, are looking for just people to hang out with or chat with, or not looking for a relationship, just want to hang out. And this is that. So I wish more apps would do this. I wish Tinder had one, and these other sites, but Bumble seems to only be the only one that wised up and has a platonic mode. So that's something I do recommend for you people out there who aren't necessarily looking to date and just want to talk. You also have a pretty decent bio section. Unlike the Tinder, you can have a lot more information here, such as your height and your sex and all that good stuff. So this app has a pretty good bio section that you can fill it out fully, and you kind of don't really need to put anything in your about me. There should be enough information, if you have kids and where you're located and what's your height and your religion and all that stuff. It's right here in the bio. So it's great to have that. Moving into the cons, we're going to look at spam accounts. Yep, they're here too. Again, like I said, it's probably a lot more than even Tinder, because you can swipe infinitely. Trust me, I've tested this out. You can swipe and swipe and swipe. And there are far less checks on this site than I think even Tinder has. So it might be pretty oversaturated, but you can't be certain. Again, some people are probably just kind of lazy and they just don't fill out anything. Our second con is women message first. So what I've noticed a lot is that, like, when you swipe right, again, as a man, when you swipe right on a woman and she matches with you, a lot of times that's kind of it. You're waiting and guess what? Bumble has a 24-hour period that she can say something to you. If she does not initiate within 24 hours, the match disappears and she goes away forever. Why that is, I have no idea. It seems really stupid. But women, if you're listening, you have 24 hours to say something to your match, or you unmatch. And I don't know if they come back in your feed. I don't think so. But it's really silly, because I think a lot of women are, let's say, too busy. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and say that they're too busy to always hit that hit time. So I think I want to say like 90% of my matches on Bumble that I've used, they have disappeared because they did not say anything in time, and it unmatched, which I think is totally unfair, but that's just how the system works. And I'm willing to bet, now that I'm thinking about it, that if I use some of the upgrade features, you might be able to like rematch or something like that. Just using my brain here, I'm just thinking about it from a financial standpoint, that does make sense that they would have a feature like that. I haven't explored and found out for myself, but it does make sense that there probably is a way that you can pay for those matches back. But we're not talking about paid features here. This is for free dating sites. So as far as free goes, you can't rematch as far as I know. And of course, the same as Tinder, one of the biggest cons is attrition. Again, it's just a matter of numbers. You might swipe through 100 people before you get one match. It might be 1,000. It might be 10. You really don't know, but it's probably going to be on the higher end. So you just have to be patient with it. It might take a while. So again, because there is no search feature where you can just search for somebody and click on different profiles and start messaging right away. You just kind of have to wait for people to log in and swipe back, and just enough things have to fall into place for things to go your way. So it's kind of a gamble there. Okay, now we're moving on to our number 2, which is OkCupid. All right, so most of you have probably heard of OkCupid. It's been around for a while, just as long as POF at least, or maybe even longer. So it's old, and it's probably not going to go anywhere anytime soon. It's just constantly reinventing itself and adding things, changing things. Some for the better, some for worse. I'd say we'll start with the pros. One pro is that it ties into your IG. I think a lot of these apps are doing this now. Tinder did that. I forgot to mention that for Tinder, but you can connect your IG to it, and people can look at your last dozen or so IG pictures. They can't get your screen name from it though. So if you want them to actually be able to find your IG, they're going to have to still communicate with you and ask for the screen name, or you have to put it somewhere in your page. But yeah, that's a pretty good feature. Another pro would be I'd say the color scheme is really nice. It's a good clean UI. It's very, it's very pleasant to look at, unlike the other ones that we spoke of today. It also has a lot of quality of life features since it's been around so long. So it has Plus membership, a token system, all that good shiny stuff. I don't really know the ins and outs of it because I haven't invested, but of course you can see who's read your messages. You can see who swiped on you, because they also have a swipey match system, so you can see who's matched with you and who has messaged you in the past and all that good stuff if you pay in and buy the extra features. They also have a detailed profile. This is probably the best feature for OkCupid, is that you can have a really, really full-on, in-depth profile and say quite a bit in your various sections. There's more than just an about me section. There are various other detailed sections that you could include a lot of information. You can even add pictures and all throughout your profile. And so yes, more than just a really good bio, you can have also a really good profile, really good looking page. Next up, another big pro I'd say for this site is the match questions. Okay, so here's a great feature where they have many, like I think it's bottomless, the amount of questions they have that you can use as icebreakers. You can fill out this questionnaire, and what they do is when they initially started this site, they had a system of matching you with different people based on your questions. If you ever filled out, I don't know, a personality quiz or something like that, where you just answer a bunch of questions. How do you feel about this? What do you think about that? Red versus blue, McDonald's versus Burger King, etc. They have that here in OKC, and you can just answer questions infinitely. And people who answered similarly, or people who got answers that you said are good answers, because you can decide, okay, this question is important to me, this question is not important to me, I want a person to answer this way, I don't want somebody who answers this way, etc., etc. So if you fill out the match questions and you rank high with somebody, they match well with you, they show a little percentile with your match. So you can find somebody who has, let's say, a 90%, which means that all the questions that they answered and that you answered as well, you both agreed that, you like each other's answers. So it's a great system. I do think it's a really good idea. I'm surprised that more sites haven't included this. But it's bottomless, and I'll give you guys a life hack. I'm not terrific at new conversation with strangers. When you're dating out here, it's kind of hard to break the ice with people you don't know. So every once in a while, I might go to OKC and I might look up one of these questions that I answered and be like, oh yeah, that's a great icebreaker. Let me bring that up. So you can dip back into this site and you can look at some of the things that you've been asked and that you've answered, and you can kind of regurgitate that and just see, where this person is at and how they think. And, it's great for icebreakers. So I do recommend filling this out, even if just for that, just to have that available to you so that you have some ammo for breaking the ice. And lastly, I say another great pro for this site is that it's pretty weirdo friendly. I think there's a lot of people on this site in particular, more so than the others, I'd say, who are a bit more unconventional. People who are, you got your goths and your nerds and your geeks and all the people who are a little less basic. We're here, we're on OKC. So I think if you're looking for more of a, let's say, interesting crowd, this is kind of the site to go. I found far more often than not, if I found somebody who was really, really unique, they usually come from this site. So that's a great jumping off point for people out there looking for that. Okay, now let's get into the cons. Of course, spam accounts. All these sites have it, so it's here too. Unfortunately, for this site, it's even harder to tell who's spam and who isn't. Because some of them are pretty convincing. You'll see some really decent or somewhat filled out profiles that still are spam, and they don't have a check system that I'm aware of. I guess the match questions is one way, because spam people are not going to answer match questions. So if they don't have any match questions, then that could be one clue, but there's really no way to be sure. Especially because another con is that they removed the search feature. Why would you remove a search feature? Like POF, they used to have a search feature where you can type in, your preferences, and you can find profiles, and you can click and select and message people that way. But now they're all swipey. There's just more swiping again. Now, granted, they did refine their swiping system to have different sections. You can swipe via your match percentage based on questions. You can swipe based on, different criteria. People who are location, I think, is one of the swipe criteria. So you can swipe people in your area, stuff like that. So it's not a bad system in the way that they swipe, but I just really wish they didn't get rid of the search, because I still think search is superior. But anyway, that's just me. Speaking of which, I think another con here is that the preferences are degraded, man. It's not, they don't hold your preferences very well. If you have a search criteria that you use for your swiping, let's say you're looking for people who live within, 20 minutes or 20 miles from your particular location, next thing you know, you're going to be seeing profiles that are hundreds of miles away from you. And I don't know why. If you have an age limit, I don't want to date people younger than such and such, you're going to see people younger than that age. They don't hold the criteria very well on this site. So, keep an eye out for that. If you're swiping, unfortunately, they don't respect very well your particular preferences. All right, winding down home stretch. Before we get into the last dating site for number 1, we're going to look at just an honorable mention right quick. I want to take a sidetrack to talk about Facebook dating. Now, this is a different app that's it's tied into Facebook, maybe, kind of, sort of, in a way. It's a bit newer compared to the other ones that we've listed today, and it's done a lot of good things here. So let's get into the pros here. For example, they have a stories feed, so you can list your stories, that sort of like your Instagram stories or your Facebook stories. You can tie that into your dating section, and people can see that as well. It links to your IG, just like the OkCupid and Tinder and all of them, so you can have your Instagram show up into your profile. It's reasonably popular. There seems to be a good number of people on it. It doesn't seem to be very well known when compared to the other sites that we've listed here today, but I guess it's because that they do a pretty good job at weeding out all these fake accounts, these spam accounts. So once you get rid of all that, then what's left over is still a decent amount of people. So you can very easily reach the end of your matches for the day, but it's usually a good number of them. So it's still enough people on this site to be worth mentioning. Then you also have the 11 slots that you can use for either your pictures, or they have like a little questions, things that you can put on your profile. So, instead of you can have 11 pictures, or you can have like 5 pictures and 6 icebreaker questions, or type of little game type questions that you can put on your profile. So it's a neat idea. I like to see that, because it takes a lot of the pressure off of people to write into their About Me section, and you can have like, I guess, a bit like a bit of an intro into who you are, instead of having to type everything up and speak from the hip. Also, I say that you have a reasonably detailed bio section here, so it's pretty informative. You get a lot of good information there. Again, with this type of bio, if you fill out everything adequately, you should be able to get everything you're looking to find, just for basic information from who you're looking for on these sites. Again, height, location, profession, all that sort of stuff is right here in the bio, so you don't really have to fill out the About Me section. And then finally, I'd say it's a pretty good feature that they have here is the back feature, and that they do it a little bit differently than other sites. Like I believe Bumble has one and Tinder has one, where you can just press back and you can see people that you might have overlooked or swiped too fast on. And instead of swiping back one, you go into this different tab where you can cycle through everybody that you skipped over. So it's really, and it's free. So that's the best part about this, is you don't have to pay extra. You can just go into this tab and you can look at everybody that you've either X'd or passed over, and you can re-review them. So that's a pretty good idea. I think that more sites implement. Now let's get into the cons. There are spam accounts, but it's very, very few. They're cleaning it up very well. There used to be a lot more back when it launched a couple years ago, but now it seems to be pretty few and far between that I find that there are spam profiles on here. I think that the UI looks kind of ugly. It's not as it's not as catchy as say Bumble or something like that. It's it's Facebook. They're always trying to redesign and re-innovate and try to get poppy and try to keep up with Snapchat. So it is what it is, but it's not as bad of an eyesore as POF, but it's not the cleanest UI I've ever seen. Another con is that it's part of Facebook, sort of, kind of. First of all, people are kind of going red on Facebook these days. A lot of people are like leaving the site, and it's had bad press and all that. So Facebook is not at an all-time high in terms of popularity. So by it being connected to Facebook, that's kind of a stigma on its own. And then the fact that it's its own site, but not really. It connects to your profile, but not really. It's kind of part of your Facebook, but you can't navigate to your Facebook from there unless you click to the. It's kind of wonky how it works. The functionality is not great. I don't think it was very well advertised, so people were like, "Oh, I didn't know they had one of these." So it's it is what it is. It's part of Facebook. That could be a pro, because if you're on Facebook, it's pretty convenient. But if you're not, then that you probably have a reason not to be, and this probably isn't going to encourage you to come back.
I'm sorry, Jesse. You're right.
Corvo, I'm scared. Is dying gonna hurt?
No, I think it'll be peaceful, like falling asleep.
Well, I'm glad that at least we'll die together.
You know what? Maybe spending time with people you love is what gives your life meaning. Not some bucket list or making a history teacher come so hard she loses feeling in her left side.
Corvo, that's beautiful. Come here, you big lug.
Alright, finally, let's talk about our number one. So the number one dating site for 2021 is Hinge. No surprise there, right? Hinge is very popular. It's pretty new, relatively speaking, compared to a lot of these other dating sites. It's only been around for a few years, but it's very popular for some reason. So that's the first pro. We're going to kick it off there. And I think it's by the same developers as the Match and POF. They have the same parent company. So because of that, these people, they know what they're doing. They know how to run dating sites, and they're probably not going under. So Hinge will be around for the foreseeable future. They also have a plus features. They have a token system. They have upgrade systems. So if you're into that, it's all here. It's a minimalist UI. I am a sucker for a minimalist these days. I like things to be clean, concise, very, not too much flash, not too much advertisements and all that stuff popping all over the place and in your face. It's pretty apparent once you get in there that it's simple, it has a point, and it makes everything easily accessible. Now, they have another neat system here that they seem to be unique here. I can't think of another site that does it this way, but they have a rose system, which they have certain particular matches that you get one rose per. It used to be per day, honestly, but they changed that over the past year to be every once a week, I think. You get a free rose, and now you have to buy more of them. And these roses are like super likes, basically. There's super likes that you can give to regular matches, or they have a new section here in the app where they have rose matches, which are people who probably are curated to be, based on their algorithm, they're curated to be like your ideal matches. These people are, let's be honest, most of them I would say are smoothly out of my league, but it's worth a shot if you're feeling bold, if you want to try to attempt at one of these people. These are probably people who have full inboxes, who get a lot of attention, so they're probably in that section for a reason. So just keep that in mind.
Couple Corral? We're finding partners is a fine howdy do? Dude, I'm not gonna start internet dating.
Now, while we're on the subject of rose system, I just wanted to go ahead and circle back to why men should not get any of these extra upgrade features, besides roses, of course, or super likes, is because a lot of times it's going to be a waste of time. You don't need extra visibility because some women aren't even using the search feature or swiping at all. I read online that some women don't use the swipe or match function at all. They just go to their inbox and see who's there. When I read about that, my head exploded because it's insane how much time I spend in swiping, but it's insane that they just kind of collect inboxes and just kind of go off of that. But what I'm saying is you're going to buy features for extra visibility to be, a plus member, and it doesn't matter because most of the women are probably not using that feature at all or swiping at all, so they're not going to see you regardless. So don't bother. It's free for one. I don't know if you can keep going for more money, but you can do at least one back for free. And I don't mean once per day. I mean like if you can do that all day if you want. You can swipe and then go back and then swipe and then go back. And you can just keep doing that. So that's a pretty good feature. I think more should have that. And then you have I want to say, well, I don't know if it's 24 hours or if it actually is a specific time. I know for me, afternoon, if I log in, there will be what we're going to call match of the day, which is basically what seems to be your ideal match based on, I guess, criteria or your preferences or the algorithm who you've been swiping right on. And I'd say it's been pretty good. The algorithm works, man. I'd say 90% of the time, whatever my match of the day is somebody that I might be interested in. So I think that this system is pretty good, and I think more sites should implement that. But yeah, I'd say it's every day at about 12:30ish. I'll have like a curated match that seems to be more ideal than most others. So this is pretty neat. I like this feature. Next, we're going to go into the cons. So the cons is that the bio is bare minimum. There's not too much here. You're not going to glean a whole lot of information. You get what you want to know, I guess, for the most part, like a location and age. But beyond that, it's pretty skimp. And then another con would be that there's only 3 questions, but they are customizable. Like I said, the whole Facebook thing, that you have the 11 slots there that you can either do a picture or you can do your fun little questions that you want to put on your profile. And you only get 3 for Hinge, unfortunately. So you can have, I don't remember how many pictures, you can have several, but you can only have 3 of the questions. And then you only have 10 to 15, I haven't counted, but it feels like 10 per day of right swipes. So that is, as far as a free member goes, you can swipe right 10 times and they'll say pay for more swipes or wait 24 hours. So, and again, I don't think it's 24 hours exactly. I think there is a time. I think it's about 6 a.m. every day. It refreshes, so you can get 10 more swipes every day at about 6 a.m. Don't quote me on that. I don't know the time, but it's something like that. But yeah, that should wrap it up. I think that's everything as far as the top 5 dating sites plus one that you should check out for 2021 if you're into that. For men, I recommend, if you have the time and energy, just cast a wide net. It's a lot of these are attrition. It's gonna take some time. You're gonna go through a lot of swipes before you find someone who mutually swipes on you and you're both interested in each other. So I'd recommend maybe picking up Bumble and Hinge, and then maybe even throw in OKC if you can. But those 2 should do it, although Bumble, like I said, is the most unreliable, because when people swipe right on you, they also have to start a conversation within 24 hours, and if they don't. But it is a pretty good site, because I think a lot of the caliber of women on there seem to be pretty good. It's not a whole lot of extra tweens who are just out for flirting around. They seem to be genuinely interested in making a connection, which is why I recommend Bumble to women as well, is because that seems to be, the more, I don't want to say professional, but it seems to be a more serious dating site for aside from most of these. That and Hinge also. Hinge, again, just is by virtue of being as popular as it is, you're going to have more available options that are actively on the site, instead of somebody who made a profile 2 years ago and never logged back in. You're going to see a lot more activity on Hinge. So I recommend those 2 at minimum. But yeah, that's it for the top 5 dating sites of 2021. This is my first video, so cut me some slack. I know there's a lot of uhs and ums. I'll try to cut them down, but I'll get better. Don't worry. I'll be back with more introvert stuff. This is Hermit J, and stay tuned. If you made it this far, please like and come back more for more introvert stuff.
100%.
Well done.
100%.
Well done, gentlemen. That's a superstar butt.